The Pacific Ocean covers half of the planet. Its area is about 165 million \text kilometer (2), which is larger than all of Earth's landmass combined. The entire Atlantic Ocean could fit inside the Pacific with room to spare. It is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. It contains more water than all the other oceans on the planet combined. Yet, we know shockingly little about it. Less than 20% of its floor has been explored. 80% of the Pacific seabed has never been seen by human eyes. We know the surface of the Moon better than the bottom of the Pacific. It hides sunken continents, underwater cities, and islands steeped in history. Today, we will try to uncover the secrets of this ocean. 1. Zealandia, the sunken eighth continent. In 2017, geologists officially recognized the existence of Earth's eighth continent. It was named Zealandia, or Tiarua Maui. Area, about 4.9 million \text kilometer (2), roughly 2/3 the size of Australia. Submerged, 94% of this continent lies beneath the Pacific Ocean. The visible peaks. Only New Zealand and a few small islands rise above the surface. The islands we call New Zealand are actually the peaks of mountain ranges piercing the water's surface. Beneath the waves lie plains, valleys, mountain chains, and river systems, an entire continent covered by the ocean. If sea levels were 2 to 3 kilometers lower, Zealandia would appear as a massive landmass comparable to India during periods of low sea levels. Much larger portions of Zealandia were above water. There were islands, coastlines, and dry land where creatures evolved in isolation. Some modern species in New Zealand have relatives that scientists only find as fossils elsewhere. This means these species survived periods when the land sank beneath the water and later returned. How exactly they did this remains an unanswered question. What happened on this land before it sank? What species lived on these temporary islands? What is left on the seabed? Traces of life that existed thousands of years ago? In what condition are the coastlines that submerged during historically observable times? The seabed around New Zealand is only about 25% explored. The rest of Zealandia remains a blind spot on our map, a whole continent we didn't manage to study, which existed long before we began exploring anything at all. 2. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, an unintentional archive. In the center of the northern Pacific Ocean, between Hawaii and California, lies the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It spans about 1.6 million \text kilometer (2), roughly twice the size of Texas. It formed because of a stable vortex of currents known as the North Pacific Subtropical Gyre. Everything that enters this gyre swirls inside for years and decades without being washed out. It is like a continent-sized whirlpool. The common misconception. Most people don't know that it is practically invisible from the surface. It is not a solid island of plastic. The majority of the patch consists of microplastics suspended in the water column, from the surface down to a depth of several meters. Looking from a ship, the water appears almost normal. Only water sample analysis reveals thousands of plastic particles in every cubic meter. Most particles are smaller than a grain of rice. It isn't garbage you can see. It's garbage that is everywhere. But from a scientific perspective, the patch has become an unintentional archive of human activity. Dating history. By analyzing the composition of the plastic, researchers can determine exactly when a specific item was manufactured, which country and factory it came from, and which decade it belongs to. Tracking voyages. The patch contains items from ships that sank decades ago, allowing scientists to reconstruct ancient sailing routes. Tsunami debris. In 2012, researchers found debris from Japanese vessels swept away by the 2011 tsunami. They traveled across the entire Pacific. Ocean in just a year and a half, carried like a package across half the planet, without an address, but along a precise route. 3. The Clarion-Clipperton Zone, treasure and unknown life. In the Central Pacific, between Hawaii and Mexico at a depth of 4 to 5 kilometers, lies the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, CCZ. It spans about 4.5 million text kilometer, (2), which is larger than India. The seafloor here is covered in a dense layer of billions of polymetallic nodules, metallic spheres, 3 to 15 centimeters in diameter. They contain manganese, cobalt, nickel, and copper. By some estimates, the Clarion-Clipperton Zone holds more cobalt than exists on the entire surface of the Earth, and more nickel than all known terrestrial deposits combined. It is one of the largest mineral deposits on the planet, resting under 5 kilometers of water in total darkness under 500 atmospheres of pressure. However, a 2023 expedition revealed that this zone is a biological wonder. Scientists descended to the bottom and found that these nodules are covered with life. Specific organisms live exclusively on the surface of these metallic spheres: sponges, corals, sea cucumbers, and worms previously unknown to science. The species diversity turned out to be much higher than expected, comparable to tropical rainforests. This potentially richest mining site in the world is simultaneously a unique, fragile ecosystem that we have only just begun to describe. Several countries have already received exploration licenses, and mining could begin in the coming decades. A decision may be made before we even have time to study what we might destroy. 4. The Hawaiian Empress Seamount Chain, a planetary time machine. Most people know Hawaii, but few know that the visible islands are just the tip of a massive structure, the Hawaiian Empress Seamount Chain, stretching about 6,000 kilometers. It runs from the active Kilauea volcano on the Big Island, northwest to the Aleutian Trench, off the coast of Alaska. It is the longest volcanic mountain chain on Earth, and most of it is underwater. The islands we see today are young, new peaks. The Pacific tectonic plate moves over a mantle hotspot, and each older island gradually shifts away and sinks. The entire archipelago acts as a time machine. Northwest, the oldest, long-submerged seamounts. Southeast, the young, still-growing islands. Along this chain lie about 80 underwater volcanic mountains. Some are extinct islands that existed millions of years ago. They went through a full cycle, rose above the water, flourished, and sank back down. On some of them, geologists find flat plateaus, former islands shaved down to sea level by waves before submerging. Some of these plateaus existed when humans were already sailing the Pacific. Were they inhabited? What remains of them at the bottom? Right now, off the coast of the Big Island, the next volcano, Loihi Seamount, is already forming about 1,000 meters below the surface. It continues to grow, and in a few thousand years, it will become the newest island of the Hawaiian archipelago. 5. The Line Islands, filters of the deep. In the Central Pacific lies the Line Islands, a group of 11 low-lying coral atolls, scattered across 1,000 kilometers along the equator. Part of them belongs to Kiribati, while Palmyra Atoll is a US territory. The Line Islands sit at the intersection of major Pacific currents. Everything drifting through the Central Pacific eventually passes by, making these islands a natural filter for ocean debris, artifacts, and traces of ancient voyages. Kingman Reef. In 1874, an American explorer found wooden fragments and metallic objects of unknown origin. When re-examined in the 20th century, dating techniques indicated they belonged to a period preceding any known European expeditions to the area. Palmyra Atoll, one of the most isolated places on Earth, inhabited only by a handful of researchers. During clearances in the 1940s, human remains and artifacts were found that did not match any recorded visits to the island. The Line Islands collect secrets just as they collect debris from ocean currents, preserving an unsorted history of the sea across centuries. 6. The Galapagos hydrothermal vents, life reimagined. In 1977, the research submersible Alvin descended into the Pacific Ocean off the Galapagos Islands. Scientists expected a barren desert. Instead, they found an oasis. At a depth of 2.4 kilometers, they discovered hydrothermal vents spewing water at temperatures up to 400 degrees Celsius. Surrounding them was an unbelievable abundance of life. Tube worms over 2 meters long, giant white clams with blood-red flesh, bizarre crabs, and fish adapted to total darkness and 250 atmospheres of pressure.